warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to the honorable panels. Today, me and my partner will be presenting ADS555 Viva Presentation on the title of our research is Factors that Affect Students' Leadership Skills in UiTM Kedah. Presenting, my name is NAJIHAH binti Muhammad Kassim and my partner is Siti Aishah binti Muhammad Kassim. Without further ado, let us start with our presentation.
Next is background of study. University student leadership is a distinct field of study and practice since education is fundamentally a moral strive. However, there has been a resurgence of interest in developing student critical leadership skills, mostly because of the higher expectation placed on students to learn. The students that have these leadership skills and stand out to lead are likely those who mostly hold prestigious position in university like head department, class monitor, and club president, which each require them to interact directly with rector, professor, parents, and other students. In Malaysia, the government is always looking for ways to support the development of leadership abilities. The effort to promote Malaysian leadership skills through Malaysian Student Leaders Summit 2019. The purpose of this organization is to cultivate the collaborative spirit and strategic mindset of future Malaysian leaders in order to instill them with strong leadership qualities and talents. Therefore, this is one of the initiatives in Malaysia to encourage leadership skills through the students from universities. Moreover, UiTM Kedah is also known as a great institution and has successfully produced a great leader in its own students. For instance, there is a former WDP MPP, Student High Council from Kedah who has now successfully held a position as the youth leader of one of the political parties in Malaysia. Because of that, the study intends to know what are the factors that affect student leadership skills that make students in UiTM Kedah become more great and stand out to lead more.
Next is problem statement. This paper is essential to begin by highlighting the problem that arises to where inadequacy of justification of students' leadership skills has a significant effect on why this topic will be reviewed. Student leadership failure can be caused by many factors, including the leader's lack of experience, insufficient resources from universities, and the lack of leadership training. The consequences associated with the experience that drive the learning forward and make an experience developmental, and its impact on how a person manages and leads, especially in managing the club and organization in their university, which cannot be well managed. The leader of student will fail if university does not assist them in developing their leadership qualities. Lack of leadership training put pressure on the field of leadership education to develop a great future leaders.
Next is research question. Our research question consists of 6 research questions. The first one is, what is the levels of students' leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? Second, what is the relationship between leadership training and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? The third research question is, what is the relationship between university resources and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? The fourth one is, what is the relationship between knowledge and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? The fifth research question is, what is the relationship between experience and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? And the last one is, what is the most dominant factor that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah? Next, we move on to research objective. The first objective of this research is to determine the levels of student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. The second one is to determine the relationship between leadership training and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. The third is to determine the relationship between university resources and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. The fourth is to determine the relationship between knowledge and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Next, to determine the relationship between experience and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. And the last one is to determine the most dominant factor that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah.
Next is conceptual framework. The conceptual framework is developed based on the literature review, in which they act as a network of interlinked concepts that provide a comprehensive understanding of the phenomena. This figure indicates the conceptual framework of a student's leadership skills, whereby it shows the relationship between the independent variables and dependent variable. The dependent variable, which is students' leadership skills, are influenced by 4 independent variables, which are leadership training, university resources, knowledge, and experience. In this section of variables relevant to the study, every variable in the conceptual framework is defined in depth. We move on to the research methodology. For research design, quantitative approach we use in order to observe the situation that affect the respondent. It is clearly communicated through statistics and numbers. For the unit of analysis, the study focuses on student leaders within a club or organization in UiTM Kedah. For population sample size, the total of the population are 150 students, which are 45 students from organizations in UiTM Kedah, 63 students from faculty clubs, and 42 students from club association. For sampling techniques, this study used stratified random sampling (SRS) as a sampling technique, where the respondents were picked at random from strata. For data collection, questionnaires were distributed to the respondent. It consists of 6 sections and 6 questions each section to be answered. For data analysis, the quantitative data analysis were used to measure in numerical values of data analysis.
Next, research finding. The first research finding is to determine the levels of student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. In this study, we utilize descriptive analysis to determine the levels of student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Based on the result, it shows that the mean value of students' perception to student leadership skill was 4.75 and its standard deviation value was 2.38. Therefore, based on Sekaran and Bugis, the mean value is at the high levels since it is in between the range of 4 to 5, which is 4.75. Thus, it explains that the most of the students had a high level of student perception to student leadership skills. Second research finding is to determine the relationship between leadership training and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. This study used person correlation to figure out how the dependence and independence variables were related in research objective 2, 3, 4, and 5. Based on the result on research finding 2, it shows that there is a moderate positive relationship between leadership training and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah, with the result of R value between 0.4 to 0.7, which is the result is 0.661 and P value is less than 0.05. Therefore, alternative hypothesis is accepted. The third research finding is to determine the relationship between university resources and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Based on the result, P value is 0.00 is less than 0.05, then the alternative hypothesis is accepted, as the R value is 0.681, indicate that there is moderate positive relationship between university resources and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah.
Next, the fourth research finding. Research objective 4 is to determine the relationship between knowledge and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Based on the results, it shows that there is a moderate positive relationship between knowledge and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah, since the value is between 0.4 to 0.7, which is R value is 0.641 and the P value is equal to 0.00, in which it is less than 0.05. Therefore, the alternative hypothesis 3 is accepted. Next, the fifth research finding. Research objective 5 is to determine the relationship between experience and students' leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Based on the result, it shows that there is a moderate positive relationship between experience and student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah, since the value is between the range of 0.4 to 0.7, which is the R value is 0.625 and the P value is equal to 0.00, in which it is less than 0.05. Therefore, the alternative hypothesis 4 is accepted. Next, the sixth research findings. Research objective 6 is to determine the most dominant factors that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Multiple regression analysis is used to find out the most influence factor that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Based on the result, it shows the university resources is the most dominant factor that affects student leadership skills, since its value is greater than the other 3 independent variables.
Next is recommendation based on finding. It is referring to the suggestion that is proposed to improve in the study. The recommendation is make the question more specific and precise. For questionnaire questions, we only use important questions to make it easier for us to look at and collect data. For example, contains questions that are not required for the researcher to collect data. It's a waste of time for us to ask questions and wait for others to respond. As a result, the question must be more specific.
Next is recommendation for future research. It refers to the suggestion that proposed to improve in the future study to be more detailed and grounded in reality before those future researchers do a similar research. First is widen the scope of study. Since the study is only focuses on identifying the factor affecting student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah only, therefore it will be better if the study can extend the scope in which by having research in 2 or more number of institutions, whether in public or private university. Moreover, by collecting big number of sample size than only 150 respondents. Second is change the method study to qualitative method. It is in order to obtain the comprehensive result and become more understand of the respondents' nature pertaining to the students' leadership skills. Next is research limitation. There is a constraint that have been faced by the researchers during conducting the research, and this constraint can be described as limitation of the study which give an effect on the completion of the research. This research limitation of this paper is related to small number of sample size. This is where the study is conducted in UiTM Kedah, whereby the respondents are among the random students inside the club and organisation in UiTM Kedah. In this study, the researchers had been able to collect 170 respondents through the distribution of questionnaire from 150 number of population. However, it is only based on the selected club and organisation and is still relatively small as to compare to other studies.
So as conclusion, this research was done to gain better knowledge and understanding on what is the factor that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah. Moreover, based on the independent variables has significantly have relationship across the dependent variable, which is student leadership skills, and via this study, the researcher can recognize most influential factor that affects student leadership skills in UiTM Kedah, which is the university resources. It can prove that a help by university can increase UiTM student leader skills. This kind of research study need to continue because it gives benefit to student leader and institution to alter their weakness and come up with better recommendation. With that, we end our presentation. Thank you.